AFL draft test has reportedly been outlawed. It is the Skinfold testing of draftees. They're going to stop teams from using the body fat measurement, or have stopped them. The edict has come from AFL House. It's going to force recruiters to use alternative measurements to quantify players' fitness and physical condition.
Just further to that.
Have an open mind.
Yes, we do. Just further to that, though, the league made the decision in consultation with the AIS and on the back of health advice that the body composition tests can have an impact on body image issues for players.
Okay. Fair or reasonable or not, to have these young men and women who are coming into the elite AFL system, is it fair and reasonable to have an expectation to say you've got to present yourself in order, and we are going to judge you on the basis of your ability to kick the footy, your ability to mark, run, and if it's compromised somewhat by not being in shape, it doesn't mean that we will not select you, but we need to have that information at our disposal to then make a decision.
Well, let's examine why players are skin-folded in the first place. Why do we need to do that?
Well, it's a measurement and an indication of body composition in terms of fat v muscle. It measures your fat, basically.
Right.
And so for the expectation to be coming into
Does it measure your disciplines in any way too?
Well, no, but then you take into account lots of things, I would imagine. You take into account your size, your shape, the position that you've played throughout your junior footy. Like, you would suspect if you're a midfielder, then if you were to come in with high skin folds, then your next question is, well, does he work hard enough? Is he covering enough ground, or is there another issue? I don't think for a second they just go large skin. In fact, I know for a fact they don't go, oh, your skin folds are too far, therefore I'm never going to even look at you. They go, large skin folds, why?
Yeah.
Let's work through this.
And we both know that we play alongside players that carry different amounts of body weight. You know, some guys are lean, naturally lean. Other guys aren't so lean.
Yep.
They need to work on it a lot harder.
Yep.
Is there another sport in the world, elite sport in the world, where they do or they don't do skin fold? Would this be sort of uniform right across world sports, elite sports?
I don't know the answer.
Do you reckon somebody would turn up for an NBA team or club or tryout or whatever and they'd skin fold them? Or do you think probably because most of the athletes in a sport like that are tall and lean anyway?
I
don't
know the answer to that. But do we see athletes on the world stage that have got a huge aerobic component to them who aren't in shape in terms of their fat composition?
Yeah, and that gets to the point that it doesn't really mean anything to certain athletes because they can still do what they do at the highest level. And I would say that they have a higher percentage of body fat than other athletes that they compete against.
Yep.
I wonder whether this is actually even outdated. Maybe that's what they've touched on here with their consultation with the AIS, that the whole idea of even skin folding athletes is an outdated thing.
Well, with the caliper testing, it is an arbitrary. Like, you pinch too much and you pinch not enough and all that. There is a variance, but it's a basic rule of thumb. You get an indication on your body composition so if you've trained for 2 months, right? Pre-Christmas, hard, and this is where we used to train our hardest, didn't we? Like, they give you a good flogging. This is what used to happen. And then they'd say, right, you got 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
So they'd skin fold you on the way out. Okay, you got yourself in good nick. We expect you to maintain that over the 2 weeks.
That's right.
Because we've got games that are about to start. We've done all this work. Then the 2 weeks ago, you had a program to stick to. You had to come back, and they skin fold you the day you came back.
Having said that, you're absolutely right. But having said that, we always got tested, running testing, when we got back as well. So we were tested before we left. We were tested when we got back. So what difference would the skin fold have made? Because you still had to run the times.
Yeah, because it is just one measurement, and this is my point. It's not the only thing that's going to preclude you from being drafted or if you're in the system playing, right? It is one, but it is an indicator that people use for professional athletes to determine whether or not A, they be selected, or B, they get a game, or C, they need extra work, or whatever the case may be. Right now, my immediate reaction to this is I don't know why we wouldn't, but then I think about it more deeply, and it is on a psychological basis.
Yeah.
And the way they feel.
That's right. That is 100%.
And is that fair, though? If you put your hand out for money to play sport, then don't you accept the scrutiny that comes with it?
Craig's on the road. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning, boys. Yeah, look, I think it's a bit of an overreaction. I mean, it might be outlawed at draft camp, but as soon as they put their foot into the club, they're going to get skin-folded on the way in and the way out every pre-season. But my point is...
Are they, though, Craig?
Yeah, I think this is the point, Craig. If it's starting here, how long before the Players Association say, okay, this is where it's going to be from an AFL point of view?
But the other thing is, guys, I mean, wouldn't it be better for the draft camp to say, look, guys, we're going to do a skin-fold test. It's a standard test, like the vertical jump, nothing to worry about. Then not outlaw it. The clubs have got no evidence when they interview the player. The player comes in and sits down with the club and they say, listen, mate, you look like you're a bit of a peppermint patty. What do you do in the off-season to prepare? And isn't that got to be more psychologically damaging than just doing a basic skin-fold test?
I'll share this with you. This is Alan Christensen, his story with Daniel Cherney in the Age, 2009 draft. He was the potential first-round pick, ended up sliding to selection 40 because he, amongst other things, had the highest skin folds of any player being tested, right? Now, he laughs about it now, but he reckons at one stage he had a coach who came up and poked him in the guts and said, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now, that sort of stuff I understand, right? I don't think clubs, well, maybe they used to. I don't know how they go about it now. But if you can deal with it, you deal with it with a sensitivity, then I think it's okay. And in the end, maybe it's voluntary, Tim. Maybe you go, okay, this is with the system we're in here. This is the system you're about to go into. Yep. You can put yourself forward for this or not.
Okay,
how would that go if you said made it voluntary?
Answer this honestly, okay? Mm-hmm. You're a coach. You're an AFL coach. You could have been an AFL coach. You could have been a great AFL coach. You decided not to do that. But anyway, you're an AFL coach. You're about to interview a player. He takes his shirt off. And he's fat. He's overweight. He clearly isn't in great shape. Mm-hmm. He's an under-18 kid just coming through the system. You've been told that he's one of the best young kids that come through the system. In your mind, what are you thinking now? Honestly.
I wouldn't put a line through him.
No, but what are you thinking?
I want to go. I don't want to get inside his head and say why. Why? But at 18, this is my point.
Does it paint some sort of a picture in your mind of the kid, though, because he does present like this?
Yeah, it does, but at 17 and 18, it doesn't put a line through it for me. This is the way I would think.
No, it doesn't put a line through it.
If he was 22 and he'd been in the system and he was a potential recruit coming in, then I'd think really long and hard about taking him.
Okay, what if this kid was being presented to you as one of the top 5 picks, mm-hmm. and you've got the first pick, right?
Yep.
He's one of those early picks.
Yep.
You look at him, you compare him to the other kids. Do you shuffle him back in the pack because of the way that he looks?
No, because this is an interesting point. You can also look at it and go, geez, he's top 5 now. Imagine what he can be when we get him into our system and we work this off him.
Good point. Anthony's in Craigieburn. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning, gentlemen. Gary, really well summed up. I think you need to maybe underline that it's not compulsory. I mean, if we're going to, as you say, professional athletes, take this measurement out of the toolbox, we've got to take everything else out of the toolbox. Now, we've got to take out the measurements for height. We've got to take out the measurements for weight, all the other indicators that go along with it. If people are sensitive to the skin fold test, you've got these blokes who are 5'2" that are terrified of being told their height, being bullied for being midgets. And I think what you've just said, Gary, make it an option. As an elite athlete, you know where you're going, boys, girls. They're being measured. They're being tracked at the age of 14, 15, 16 as we speak now.
Hey, Anthony, thanks for joining us. There's another message here. Fat shaming, teasing and bullying is part of the footy culture, so I think anything they do to stop that is good. So that's some of the attitudes that are coming through here.
We all did that. I don't know whether that occurs now, but if you were in an elite environment, I would think it would be the case now. If you're in an elite environment and one of your teammates turned up and he had a pot gut, and he didn't have that when he went away for your break, you're not going to not say anything if you're one of his teammates.
Tim, we used to have Fat Club.
Exactly. Well, we had every club had a Fat Club.
Yeah.
Every club had a Fat Club. And you'd have to go and do extra work until you got your skinnies down.
And you know what? Fair enough. We used to go, fair enough.
Yeah.
You want to be, we need you to be as good as you can be for us, and you got to work harder. You got to fix your diet, or you got to do whatever it is to get out of it. Now, Fat Club wouldn't wash today. No, you just couldn't do it. But I don't know what you call it alternatively. Be Better Club, or or I don't know, but I don't care what it is. But in a football environment like that, if it's embracing and it's everyone's best interests are at heart, and you've been able to establish that trust between the playing group, then as a senior player going up to another player and saying, "Hey, mate, you got to pull your finger out here because what you turned up in shape here that's just not good enough," then that's got to be accepted.
It does. And it was. And I just wonder whether or not it would be right now, though. In this day and age, whether or not you can do that or it can be done.
Joe Watson, Clayton Oliver, 2 players, right?
Yeah, well, Job was as...
He was a little fatty,
yeah, he wasn't fit when he arrived.
a little plumpy.
No, exactly. But Clayton Oliver was. By the time he actually got into the system, his last year of football, he started out in the under-18s as one shape, and by the time the season ended, he was a different shape.
Not necessarily.
He's much lighter now than what he was.
Yeah, that penny dropped 2 years ago in terms of training and shape.
Well, hang on, Christian Petrarca. Like 2 years ago, Christian Petrarca to his body shape now.
Oh, it's a hotbed. Away it goes. We'll keep rolling along. I think the important thing is, if you're a young, and we'll talk to Mac Andrew, it's not going to be a problem with Mac because is that not from Obi Joby One Kobe?
No, this is from somebody else. Okay, and he won't mind me saying this. Top 20 all-time best times around the tan, this particular person.
Yep.
And they still called me Fatty Calthorpe.
Well,
we called him Chunky.
When we used to do the Skinfold, we've got to get a break because we've got to get to Xavier. Everyone was in the same, but unless some people could do what they want, eat what they want, that's just
They had
biology,
that metabolism.
And Brett Lovett, who I trained with every summer, he'd look at something and he'd put 5 points on his Skinfold, right? So there was an unfairness in all that. But the story we always got told was David Boone. Remember Boone, was at his peak and was the beer drinking record, and they reckon he had the lowest Skinfolds of everyone.
I've never heard that story.
Haven't you? Well, that was what was shared with us all the time. So looks are deceptive as well.